Hello, my name is Jackie Head and I am an installation artist from Indianapolis, Indiana. My work is comprised of slip-cast wall forms that I use to create installations. I refer to these forms as tiles. My work is rooted in two historically rich industries, the slip-casting industry and the design industry. In the summer of 2014, I had the opportunity to study abroad with the West Virginia University program. I spent 5 weeks in China, 3 of which were spent working in a studio in Jingdezhen. This experience totally changed my approach to making and helped ignite my interest in mold making. I studied abroad in China the summer before my last semester in undergrad at Indiana University. While I was there, I began experimenting with wall tiles. When I returned, I had to create a BFA thesis exhibition. At that point, my slipcast production was quite small. I only had 2 molds per tile form. After a little over a year of slip casting, my production scale for creating my tile molds became quite large. Now I typically create 3 to 5 molds per tile form. In reality, the number of molds created is determined by an upcoming deadline. I am able to calculate how many molds I need to create for a particular tile by taking the number of tiles I need for the installation divided by the number of workdays I have until the deadline, and then divided by how many times I am able to cast a mold in a day. Keeping track of the components required in an installation can be quite challenging at times. For large installations, I typically have to box up bisque tiles until I'm able to glaze all of them at the same time. Counting and recounting occurs often, as I have to make sure I have enough tiles, including extra tiles, to complete the planned installation. Vintage tiles, historical mosaics, and contemporary mass-produced tiles heavily influence my work. I love the bold shapes and use of color. I am fascinated by how an individual tile is beautiful and interesting, but combined with other tiles can take on a whole new meaning. When developing patterns on the computer, I utilize techniques such as block printing and creating tessellations, which have been used to make fabric, wallpapers, and other decor items throughout history. I create all of my installations using Adobe Illustrator. I use it like a sketchbook to develop and plan all of my pieces. At any given time, I have a catalog of dozens of shapes saved on my computer to use when creating new work. Sometimes I feel like the process of planning a piece on the computer takes just as much time as creating it in real life. I use Adobe Illustrator to try out different layouts, scale, and color. Once I've figured out the correct layout for each piece, I will digitally visualize dozens of different color schemes to help select the best one for each piece. Utilizing the computer allows me to see different solutions quickly so that I'm able to experiment and come to a conclusion much more quickly than sketching it out on paper. This was the first piece I fully relied on Adobe Illustrator from start to finish. I developed the entire installation digitally before starting to sculpt any of the prototypes. I sculpted the prototypes out of white earthenware, fired them, and created 3 to 5 molds per form from the original bisqued prototypes. When I created the Adobe Illustrator design, I had to take into account the shrinkage of the white earthenware prototypes and also the shrinkage of my Cone 6 porcelain casting slip body. This is another example of my sketching on Adobe Illustrator. Once I've created a prototype, I have a better understanding of the various planes on the tile and how the color may be used to interact with other tiles. I love being able to experiment and transform a space by creating an environment that envelops the viewer. Different color palettes can drastically alter the effect a piece can have on the viewer. This is an image of the largest piece I've created to date, installed at the Cary Furnace in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania during NCECA 2018. With creating my pieces electronically before making them, I'm able to have a template that is ready to print out when it comes time to install. I wanted to create a piece utilizing a majority of my molds from different series. Slipcasting allows me to reinvent forms that I've used previously for different installations. Once the tiles are created for an original piece, I'm able to make extras and experiment with them as if they are puzzle pieces. I was able to go as large as I wanted, so I developed this piece that spans 20 feet wide and 8 feet tall. It is a further continuation of my work transforming spaces and altering the environment in which it occupies. I enjoyed creating a piece that contrasted so much with its surroundings. The old steel mill was dark and worn down, which was amplified by the bright and exuberant installation. The steel mill represents what people may think of when they hear the word industry, but my installation contrasts that idea with how I've catered industry methods of mass production to fit my needs as an artist. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful day.